What will pride do if it's allowed to seep through in our lives? If the virus scan of God's grace doesn't immediately alert us and we deal with it? Well, the first half of verse 1 tells us pride will poison my relationships. The last part of verse 1, it says this, pride will pollute my life. And we'll see all these in just a moment. Thirdly, in verse 2, pride produces anxiety. If you are anxious, at the root of anxiety is pride. We're anxious that we be accepted. We're anxious this works out. We're anxious on the timing. We're anxious on our security. We're anxious on our appearance. And some people just get so riled up inside their anxiety because of pride dictating their lives. Verse 3 tells us that pride will plunder my prayers, robbing them of their effectiveness, of their direction, of their power. Verses 4 and 5, pride will provoke God's enmity. If you want God to be your enemy, be proud. If you want God to be your enemy, persist in letting pride seep through. Verse 6, the first part, pride finally will prevent my spiritual growth. One of the most common laments I hear is people saying, I just don't feel I'm growing. Well, you know what stunts spiritual growth? Pride. Then at the second half of verse 6, we start looking at what pride resisted. When the virus alarm comes up and we start saying no to pride that poisons our relationships and pollutes our life and produces anxiety and plunders our prayer and provokes God and keeps us from growing, what happens when we resist pride? What will humility do? The second part of verse 6 tells us that humility prompts the grace of God. I mean, you want to just get a dump of grace? You want to just get a washing over your spirit of God's grace? Resist pride somewhere in your life, and God will just he'll fire hose you with His grace. It prompts an overflow of His grace into our life. Secondly, humility, we'll see, provides deliverance from God. It makes us victorious in verse 7. In verse 8, it will prosper our intimacy with God. If you want to get really close to God, be humble. He likes humble people to be near Him. The second part of verse 8 and verse 9, humility will promote cleansing in our lives. And finally, humility in verses 10 through 12 prepares us for success through God in every part of our life.